Milwaukee, 1991. A man stumbles into the street, shirtless, terrified, with handcuffs still hanging from his wrist. His name was Tracy Edwards, and he had just escaped from the apartment of a man who would soon horrify the entire nation. That man was Jeffrey Dahmer. The Milwaukee Monster. A name that still sends chills decades later. But who was Dahmer before the headlines? How did an ordinary kid from Ohio grow into one of the most infamous killers in American history? Today, we dig into the life of Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born May 21, 1960, in Bath Township, Ohio. He was the first child of Lionel and Joyce Dahmer. On the surface, it looked like a normal Midwestern childhood. But behind closed doors, things were rocky. His mother battled mental health struggles, while his father was often away at work. From an early age, Dahmer developed a strange fascination with bones. After a childhood hernia surgery, friends noticed a sudden change. The once energetic boy became distant, quiet, and withdrawn. Neighbors later recalled him collecting dead animals, dissecting roadkill, and even keeping bones like trophies. At the time, people brushed it off as a weird hobby. Looking back, it was one of the first red flags. High school was no escape. Dahmer was awkward, kept to himself, and drank heavily, even sneaking alcohol into class. Some classmates found him strange, but entertaining. They even joked about his antics, calling it doing a Dahmer. But behind that mask of weird humor, Jeffrey was hiding something darker. He realized he was gay, but didn't feel safe enough to share it. In his private world, his fantasies grew darker. Fantasies not just about sex, but about control, dominance, owning another person completely. In 1978, just weeks after graduating high school, Dahmer crossed a line he could never return from. His first victim was Stephen Hicks, an 18-year-old hitchhiker. Dahmer invited him back home for drinks. When Hicks tried to leave, Jeffrey panicked. He struck him with a dumbbell and then strangled him. That night, Dahmer dismembered the body and buried the remains in his backyard. He was only 18 years old. For nearly 9 years, Dahmer didn't kill again, though his violent urges never went away. He served in the army, but alcohol got him discharged. He bounced between jobs. Then in 1987, he killed again, this time Stephen Tuomi. At that time, Dahmer was living with his grandmother, Catherine Dahmer, in the West Allis, Wisconsin state. Jeffrey Dahmer met Stephen Tuomi at a bar in Milwaukee. They went to a hotel room, but by morning, Tuomi was dead. He didn't remember anything because he was drunk at last night. He bought a suitcase, placed the body inside, and carried it back to his grandmother's home in West Allis, Wisconsin. Unlike before, Dahmer didn't just hide the body. He kept parts of it. By the late 1980s, 3 more lives had been taken inside his grandmother's house. James Dockstader, Richard Guerrero, and Anthony Sears. The quiet suburban home in West Allis had become the hidden stage of Dahmer's growing darkness. But even there, the walls were closing in. His grandmother complained about the smell, about strangers coming and going at night. In 1988, Dahmer's secret life caught up with him. He was arrested for drugging and molesting a 13-year-old boy. Somsack Syntha-Somphone. Sentenced to a year behind bars, he served just 10 months. By May of 1990, Dahmer had moved into the Oxford Apartments in Milwaukee, apartment 213, the place where his darkest crimes would unfold. What's chilling is how normal he looked to the outside world. Dahmer held a steady job at a chocolate factory. He greeted neighbors politely. But inside, apartment 213 was a nightmare. He lured men with offers of money, drinks, or a place to stay. But once they stepped inside Dahmer's apartment, most never left. At Glenda, Cleveland, the concerned neighbor complained about the strange smell many times, but police dismissed it. Even worse, in 1991, officers returned a 14-year-old Laotian boy, Konarak Synthesomphone, back into Dahmer's apartment after neighbors begged for help. Hours later, he was dead. Then came July 22nd, 1991. Tracy Edwards escaped. He led police back to Dahmer's apartment. And what they found inside defied belief. Polaroids of dismembered bodies, human skulls in the fridge, a 57-gallon drum filled with dissolving remains. 17 victims in total. Jeffrey Dahmer's double life was finally over. During his trial, Dahmer shocked the world with his calm confessions. He said, "I never truly wanted freedom. What I really wanted was death for myself. This trial wasn't about hate. I didn't hate anyone. I knew I was sick, or evil, or maybe both. Now, after the doctors have told me about my sickness, I finally have some peace." In 1992, he was sentenced to 16 consecutive life sentences, but prison wasn't the end. In 1994, just 2 years later, another inmate beat Dahmer to death. He was only 34. Jeffrey Dahmer's story isn't just about a monster. It's about red flags ignored, victims failed, and how pure evil can hide behind an ordinary smile. From a quiet kid in Ohio to the Milwaukee monster, Dahmer remains one of the darkest figures in American crime. This was the biography of Jeffrey Dahmer. If you want more biographies of famous figures, their lives, struggles, and legacies, hit subscribe and join me. Because sometimes, history's most ordinary people leave the darkest marks.